someone the full rights to the claims, and it can take years. With the nomination, Ahmad feels secure that his family will be protected even when he is no longer around. So, don't delay. Make a nomination and list your nominees today.
Life can be extra and full of uncertainties. However, life insurance bukan extra. Protect yourself and your loved ones today. Nak drama lagi? Create your own and join our contest at bukanextra.com.
Bang, kena ambil insurans Takaful bang. Kalau apa-apa terjadi nanti, macam mana nak tanggung perbelanjaan budak-budak ni?
Insurans? Takaful? Ini semua mahal. Takut tak mampu.
Abang cuba tengoknya. Yang ni kita mampu. Nak faham pun senang.
Boleh kot.
Perlindungan insurans atau takaful bukan sahaja penting, malah merupakan satu keperluan. Perlindungan tenang, mampu dan mudah. Berikan perlindungan yang sewajarnya untuk diri dan keluarga anda.
Malaysian Takaful Association presents the importance of making a nomination. As a father, Ahmad is constantly thinking about the well-being of his family. He has seen firsthand the importance of preparing for all scenarios. So, Ahmad makes a decision. He's going to secure his family's future through nomination. Making a nomination ensures that claims go to Ahmad's beneficiaries through a faster claims process and are then distributed according to his plan. Without a nomination, you will need to get a grant of probate or letter of administration to allow someone the full rights to the claims, and it can take years. With the nomination, Ahmad feels secure that his family will be protected even when he is no longer around. So, don't delay. Make a nomination and list your nominees today.
Life can be extra and full of uncertainty.
Assalamualaikum and good morning to everyone who is tuned in to this morning's webinar. We hope everyone is well and keeping safe. My name is Lisa, your MC for today. Ladies and gentlemen, October has been designated as the Financial Literacy Month. It is a month dedicated to inform, educate, and support Malaysians in practicing sound financial management. We encourage you to check out the Financial Education Network website at www.fenetwork.my to learn more about the Financial Literacy Month activities. Today's panel discussion is the final session of the Financial Literacy webinar series held in conjunction with the Financial Literacy Month 2020. The title of the webinar today is #YOLO but your cover is low, Insurance and Takaful for Youth, organized by Bank Negara Malaysia, the co-chair of the Financial Education Network, or FEN. This session will be an interesting one, so please do stay tuned to gain insights on insurance and takaful as an integral part of personal financial management for youth. Should you have any questions to pose to any of our panelists, please submit your questions via Slido/YOLO, or you can just scan the QR code showing on the screen. Both this information will be on your screen throughout the session. Lastly, to help us improve the content of the webinar in the future, we would appreciate it if you can spend some time to fill up the feedback form at www.fenetwork.my/feedback at the end of this session. Ladies and gentlemen, now with much honor, I would like to invite and welcome our distinguished and esteemed panelists for today's session. Encik Ranggambir, Vice President, Life Insurance Association of Malaysia; Encik Elmi Aman Najas, Deputy Chairman, Malaysian Takaful Association; and Puan Alina Amir, Co-founder, Arus Academy. And moderating the panel discussion today is Encik Han Liu, the co-founder of Ringgit Plus. Han, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Lisa. Good morning, Malaysia, and welcome to the third webinar in this webinar series in conjunction with Financial Literacy Month 2020, organized by the FEN. This is the third webinar, so if you're joining us for the third time, welcome back. Today's session is titled #YOLO but your cover is low, Insurance and Takaful for Youths. So my name is Han. I'm the co-founder of ringgitplus.com, Malaysia's largest financial product comparison portal. And over the last 8 years, we've served over 1 million customers across their financial needs, be it education, financial products, and access to financial services. With me, I've got three very, very qualified people to talk about Takaful insurance, namely Mr. Ranggambir here, Vice President of the Life Insurance Association of Malaysia. I have Encik Elmi Aman Najas, the Deputy Chairman of the Malaysian Takaful Association, and with us at the very end, Ms. Alina Amir, co-founder of Arus Academy. So welcome to our guests. Just, a bit of context, I think, about today's discussion. The big elephant in the room, yet again, COVID-19, the pandemic, the various MCOs in Malaysia in particular, impacting finances and financial situations of not just the country, but of Malaysians, individuals and households, right? So, at Ringgit Plus, we do lots of surveys every year, and the main one we did this year was on how COVID-19 and the pandemic affected how Malaysians feel about their money, how they're experiencing their money, and we found some very scary things, right? Things like more than 50% of Malaysians can't save money, or they spend the same or more than what they earn. They can't raise an emergency budget. They're not even thinking about insurance, and things like that. So hopefully today we can get to the crux of it about your money, yes, but why insurance is important, regardless of how old you are, even if you are, a big CEO of a corporation, or just a student starting out, or just graduated and got your first job. Why is it important? So before we get into questions, what I'll do is I'll get our guests, our panelists, to introduce themselves, what they do, and what their institutions represent, and then we'll get straight into it. First, I guess, is for Mr. Rangam here. The question, we like to cover it, and first on the session is COVID-19, right? Which is when people think about life insurance, medical insurance, they talk about COVID-19, and they're worried about COVID-19. You're with Liam. Maybe you can explain what Liam does and how the insurance industry is supporting Malaysia during this time.
Sure. Thanks, Han. And good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks to Bank Negara and the Financial Education Network for really having this conversation on financial planning. I think it's very important. I represent Liam, the Life Insurance Association of Malaysia, which is the association of 16 insurance companies, which really talks about promoting life insurance in Malaysia. Also together with promoting the industry, increasing the professionalism within the industry and attracting people to be part of the industry, together with our customers, together with with our partners, business partners, agents, employees, stakeholders. And I do believe that the insurance industry is a very critical role to play in improving financial planning and awareness. Now, as Liam, we have been engaging a lot together with the youth. We run a very successful internship program where hundreds of young people have become part of the industry. We have had the Youth Video Awards for a long time where we have promoted life insurance using the innovative video format. And right now we are running the Bukan Extra campaign, which is a very trendy young campaign addressed towards the millennials to really understand the concept of insurance, the concept of financial planning, and just to understand that insurance is not extra, but insurance is really an integral part of your financial planning. We are all youth, right? When we are young, we all believe in being invincible, right? We want to go out and conquer the world, but tragedy strikes. And I think COVID-19 has actually taught us the fragility of life around us, right? So there can be unfortunate events, there can be disasters that strike. And what happens at that point of time, right? You need to either take help from your family, you want to take a loan, get into debt, or just depend on the government to tide over that particular crisis. And that's where the thinking around planning becomes very important. And the message that I want to pass on is when you talk about the future, there is no future without planning. I think that's going to be very important, right? Now, coming to the question that Han asked about COVID-19, I think the industry actually has been playing a very important role as part of addressing the COVID pandemic. Typically, our policies, the insurance certificates, the medical certificates, would exclude the pandemic clause and quarantining due to pandemic. But what the insurance and the Takaful industry did as early as in January was to basically remove that exclusion on pandemic and to really say any kind of hospitalization and treatment that happens as a result of the pandemic will be covered. What we also did as an industry was we came together with Liam, with MTA, with PM to set up an 8 million ringgit fund to work together with BNM, with the Ministry of Health and the authorities to actually pay for the COVID testing. We pay around 300 ringgit when any of our insurance policyholders actually need to undergo COVID testing. We actually pay that COVID testing for them. Beyond that, we have, in order to make sure that our customers can maintain their policies, we have worked together with BNM and introduced the premium deferment program, the 90-day premium deferment program. And not only the 90-day premium deferment program, but also a no-lapse guarantee, which actually ensures that our customers can continue to maintain their policies and their protection despite any of the difficulties they are facing during the COVID-19. And as a final measure, I think individual companies in the market have actually given even special coverage for COVID, additional debt coverage, compassionate coverage, additional benefits for anybody who's actually impacted by COVID-19. And I think what customers should do, what people should do is really go online, do research, and they'll find a lot of what's been going on at the industry level.
No, thanks for that, Rangam. I think sounds like you guys have been busy, both at Liam and MTA. And with that, I guess I'll pass to Encik Elmi here, which is, I guess if you could introduce yourself a bit about your institution and how it's different from Liam, and also where you see COVID-19 impacting young people when it comes to thinking about their lifestyles, and I mean, Encik Rangam said, people start thinking about their health, right? But it's hard to think about health when my incomes have dropped, for example. So if you could just give us a sense of that first yourself, and then what you think about that.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum and very good morning, everyone. My name is Elmi, and I am the Deputy Chairman of the Malaysian Takaful Association. The Malaysian Takaful Association is an association of around 18 Takaful companies, and our aim is to actually promote the sustainable sustainable growth and development of the Takaful industry. So in a way, we and Liam, we work closely together. It's just that for MTA, our scope is mainly on Islamic finance, so therefore it's the Takaful space. When we look at youth, they are a very important segment to the country. According to the statistics of the Malaysian Statistics Department, there are about 14.8 million youth in the country, of which represents 47% of our population. So therefore, it's very important that when we look at youth, that we look at what is it that we want to do with our youth. And in terms of this, as we look at the life expectancy of Malaysians now, we see that Malaysians are now living longer. The average age of life expectancy now is about 67.9%. Malaysians are living longer, but not necessarily better. And I think it's important that we realize that with medical inflation, with the protection gap, with the importance of savings for retirement, we must ensure that youth start their financial planning well, right? And when we look at the pandemic situation now that's happening, no doubt, what we've seen is that there is actually an opportunity for a lot of people to get involved in doing sales or earning more income through the internet, through the gig economy, and that's been very positive. However, I think it's still not enough. Through the study that Bank Negara published in 2018, we know that the living wage for a person living in KL is about 2,700 ringgit, right? And that's the amount that a person needs to have to be able to live fairly comfortably in KL. And when we look at the average age, the average wage of a graduate entering workforce now is around 2,300. So it is not enough, and therefore it is important that our youth plan for their finances well, because there's not much to stretch. So the importance of financial planning becomes more and more important in light of this.
Thanks for that, Elmi. I think you mentioned 14.8 million youths. What's the definition of youth there?
Okay, so I'm using the standard definition of youth categorized as between ages 15 to 39.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the
so millennials and Gen Z basically. All right, got it. So, okay, moving on to someone who knows millennials and Gen Z very, very well. Alina, maybe you could just add if you got anything to add to what Elmi has been talking about around how youths are moving towards gig economies, how they've been impacted, and where do you see their capability in financial management during this time, and also do tell us what ARUS actually does.
All right, thank you, Han. So my name is Alina, and I am one of the co-founders of ARUS Academy. And ARUS is a social enterprise that is on a mission to reimagine and transform the way we learn, to make learning more relevant, more meaningful, and more hands-on, in our hopes to culture a more lifelong learners. And in doing so, we do it through content development, we do it through youth engagement, we work with teachers, we train them, we work with parents as well. And this also includes financial education. And with financial education, we've created multiple different modalities of how a youth can learn about managing finances. And Takaful Insurance is one of the main learning objectives within our financial education curriculum. To address your question, Han, I think as the pandemic is only helping the gig economy segment grow. And as we normalize gig economy, we should also then normalize the conversations around benefits and coverage for these gig workers. As a business owner of a enterprise that is run by youth, I am also very concerned about how much benefits and coverage do I provide for my staff at a time of a pandemic where income is not as stable as before, right? And for gig workers, getting coverage, getting Takaful insurance is not the first thing on their mind. It's not part of expenditure. But what can we do in terms of promoting it, in terms of making it more, as we speak about pandemic, as we speak about gig economy, how can we speak more about benefits and awareness around incentives for gig workers?
No, thanks for that. That's a really good insight, because when most people think about what they earn, they go, okay, well, I don't really need insurance because I have an emergency fund, right? So for example, or even if I don't have an emergency fund, it might not happen to me, but beyond the capacity of like having an emergency fund, right? I mean, what do you think is the significance of having coverage? As in, why is it important part of financial management? Surely financial management should just be, I earn enough money, I budget well, I save well, I'm a good financial manager of my life. And maybe I'll ask all three of you in turn, but maybe Mr. Ranga have a go at that first.
Sure. Han, I think that's a very important question. I'll just start off with one example, right? I had one colleague of mine who's actually well-to-do, manager and a senior manager in the company. He got infected by dengue. He went into a hospital, and it was a particularly severe case, and he came out with a hospital bill of 30,000, right? Now, even for a senior manager, how many would have a savings that they can tap into of 30,000, right? So it's not just the part that you want to save aside, right? Because you do get confronted by particular situations where you need to be able to, deal with a tragedy, deal with an accident, or any unfortunate event which creates a financial crisis for you, that you don't end up going into debt with family or friends, or going to the bank, or even dependent on any other help, right, like the government. So that part of that financial planning, where you can set aside in a disciplined manner small sums of money every month so that it can actually pay for you when you need it, I think is very critical. The way I look at it is, it's like the airbag in a car, right? You know it is there. The car allows you to be independent, drive around, be confident. But in the event of an accident or a tragedy, it's there to protect you, right? So that's part of part of the financial planning. But as you progress, when you're young, as you progress, your family develops, your personal situation changes. You get married, you have children, your needs change. You need to have needs around savings. You need to have needs around retirement. You need to plan for your children's future educational needs, right? So your needs keep on evolving over the period of time, and you need to plan for all of that. That's where insurance and Takaful, in my mind, becomes a very important planning tool for your future.
No, I like that very much, which is, why is it significant? You wouldn't ask your car manufacturer to take out the airbag in your car, so why should you remove insurance or Takaful from your life? I don't know. Do you have? Do you feel that way too? Do you feel that people should be putting more significance into something like that? And why do you think they don't?
Yeah. Thank you, Han. So when we look at the pyramid of financial planning, right? The base of that is actually about making sure that you protect yourself against risk, right? Yeah. So it's about wealth protection, right? And this is a fundamental item that you need to address whenever you look at financial planning. So it's important that as you construct a financial plan and you think about, how do I want to manage my finances, you set aside some money to deal with this. And this may be something that is not natural to people, because the first thing that they do is that they would like to then see how they could grow their money, right? But often people forget that it is as important to ensure that you also take steps to ensure that you're also protected as well.
Okay, but I mean, but it's hard for someone to see how protection is relevant to wealth building, right? Is it because when I'm young, I don't have the wealth to sustain me if something bad happens, therefore I need the insurance? So, and how is that different? Because the myth is that insurance is for older people. I worry about it when I earn enough or when I'm older, right? Is it the case that insurance is just because I don't have the wealth yet to support myself if something bad happens? Is that what you're saying?
No. So what? Yeah, I think when we look at the for youth, when we look at the basic of protection, right? Say for instance, you are someone who is actually self-employed, right? And you don't have the benefit of coverage that a person who is employed may be getting. And the if you don't plan for you to have a very good risk management, assuming that unfortunately you find yourself unfortunately being able to then have to go to the hospital. Yep. So in that instance, then what do you do then, right?
Yep.
So hence the need for you to have a basic coverage, which is always very important. Yeah.
No, okay, I understand. Cool. So regardless of where you are in terms of your age, it's very important just to have that basic coverage. But I mean the stats are showing this, which is not enough of youths are getting covered. Alina, do you feel it's because why do you think that is? Like, do you feel in your view that people, youths or people in general, but youths in particular, just don't consider it? And for those who do not, why do you think they don't? What are the barriers that currently exist that stop them from doing it?
Okay, so I'm a teacher in training, and my interaction with youth comes when I am in front, running programs with them, running lessons with them. And as I interact with them through the financial education programs, what I found is that they understand the concept of savings. They understand the concept of if I get income, kena simpan sikit in the bank, etc. But the concept of takaful insurance is completely new and foreign to them. They have never considered even to include it as part of their daily budgeting, for example. And one of the things they do that is because they don't see when it will come in play. I have never gone through any hardships in my life before. When would insurance or takaful ever benefit me? But for me, as a teacher who has taught in B40 schools, who has interacted with them, if only they could understand that takaful insurance could be the thing that ends poverty or stop the cycle of poverty. I've seen enough students who have to leave school because their parents probably had accidents and no takaful to then help them during this time. What people need to understand is that takaful insurance is a financial tool or financial service that could end the cycle of poverty or stop the beginning of poverty happening. And that is something that we are trying to convey to our youth, trying to teach our youth the philosophy behind it rather than products. If they understand and believe in it, then they will then find initiatives to get on it.
Yeah. No, thanks, Alina. I think what you said there is quite important, right? It's the barrier to adoption is not that it's not available, it's that there's a serious lack of understanding among why it's important. Because it's very easy to see, I receive money from doing work, I put money in the bank account, I save it, I don't spend it, prudent financial management. It's hard to see that unexpected non-financial situation actually affects me financially, right? And that's what you're saying. The key barrier to why this isn't taken up more widely is understanding. And we'll get to how to solve that in a bit. But for me, that comes down to the crux of what you're saying. I like that very much, which is the cycle of poverty. So what you're saying is, it's not just getting a good job, earning a decent income, studying hard and graduating and then getting a good job that allows you to break that cycle of poverty and move up the social classes or move up the income classes to get yourself out of that kind of poverty situation. It's also, you've seen classic examples of, despite doing all that, lack of insurance causes them to fall back into poverty. I think that's a really important message for everyone, particularly people who had not been aware of this before. Hopefully one of these sort of sessions help, right? I think at this stage it's probably worth me saying, like, look, we've been talking about insurance as a concept, why it's important. If you have any questions for our panelists, you have the opportunity in these live stream settings to ask a question. And I'll pick it out from Slido, sli.do/YOLO. Scan the QR code, go to the Slido page, ask the questions that you want. I'll pick them out and challenge our panelists here with your questions. Hopefully you get your questions answered. Remember, I mean, each of our panelists has said it's important, and each of them has said, look, one of the barriers to getting it is a lack of awareness, lack of understanding of why these products are important, or why these tools are important. Be it medical emergencies, be it foundations of financial planning, or getting yourself getting yourself and your family out of that poverty cycle. I think we've shown that it's fairly important to understand insurance. If you've anything that you need help with understanding, please go ahead and scan the QR code, and I'll pick it out and ask our panelists. Let's move swiftly on, which is, now that we said, look, it's important, right? So as a viewer, they've gone, okay, the panelists have said it's very important, but where do I start? What do I do? What should I get? There's so many types of products out there that everyone's talking about. As a youth, I'm totally uncovered. Where do I start? And I guess between Rangam and Elmi, where should people start? Whether it's conventional insurance or Takaful?
Well, I mean, at the end, what I would say, Han, is that what's important is you make the start, right? It doesn't matter whether, it goes with your preference, whether you want to do insurance, whether you want to do Takaful. I think both offer really adequate policies or products that would suit your need. What is important, what I would say is, you need to start early, right? As youth, the first product you really need to start with is protection. Because to the point that Alina mentioned earlier on the cycle of poverty, why does that matter? Because when you start working, when you are young, right, you are protecting your own income, right? Because your income is important for dealing with any kind of important events for your family. It goes towards a saving. But when an event happens, the protection that you need would be many times the amount of the saving that you might have. And that's where insurance plays a role. So my perspective is, when you start off with protection. Protection can be a lot of different various forms of protection, right? You talk about death protection, you talk about critical illness. In Malaysia, we have a huge challenge with some of the lifestyle diseases like stroke, heart attack, cancer, diabetes. These are really increasing in terms of lifestyle. So having those critical illness protection in place for the gig economy workers, who are out there, who are working for the living day to day, you need accident protection, right? Accident insurance for when you're out there working. And that kind of protection is so critical when you start off. Of course, as your lifestyle improves, right, then you broaden your considerations. As your life situation changes, you think about other aspects that you need to consider, like savings, like retirement, like education for your children, and so on and so forth. But protection, in my mind, is really the starting point.
Okay. Ranga's mentioned, think about protection rather than just building wealth alone. But as kind of whether I'm a student who's about to graduate and start work, or I'm currently a gig worker, the question will be naturally what's the minimum? How much should I get of these things? These things these things that Ranga mentioned sound like they make sense. I protect against illness, accidents, but how much is enough?
How much is enough? Yeah. So there's a general rule of thumb that we normally use in financial planning, and that when we look at the amount of coverage that you need, and assuming that it's a life cover, right? So the general rule of thumb is to use your annual income, right? And you can the minimum that we would recommend would probably be 10 times up to about maybe 20 or 36 times, and that depends again on your risk profile. Right. So, for instance, if you are coming back to an example, if you are basically self-employed and you're not under the coverage of an employee benefit, so you may then want to look at what is it that you first need. Perhaps a recommendation for you to look at making sure that you're protected against accident and health, right? And also looking at the coverage that you need, and again at a minimum life cover between 10 to 36 times. And if you are already employed and you have the benefit of employee benefit, then you could see how much you're covered for, and you can do a top up. Or you could also start to go into acquiring a Takaful or insurance plan that focuses on savings. That could also be very useful for you.
Okay, so top tip there, rule of thumbs are in place. Ask your insurer or Takaful provider. Elmi said 10 times, but that sounds like a reasonable rule of thumb to me. And importantly, some for those who are employed in the formal sector, you might get a benefit from your employer. Look to top up if you don't enough. Elmi, you look like Rangam, you look like you're itching to say something else.
Yeah, exactly. This is one point I just wanted to make really is, when you talk about protection, right, it is very important to start early, right? When you start when you're young, because when you're young, coverage is much more affordable. You are not suffering from lifestyle conditions as you grow older. As you grow older, coverage becomes that much more expensive and that much more challenging to obtain when you have difficult conditions, right? So the younger you start, the more affordable it is. I think that's a very important message that you can take back.
Okay. I mean, but I guess an open question for both of you before I move on to Alina, which is, I start young and I might get those conditions later. Wouldn't my premium start increasing at that point anyway? So shouldn't I only worry about it at that point? Or I like the idea of starting young because it means you're protected from an early age, but to that point of premiums going up as my lifestyle gets in the way, as it were, of my health, how does starting young actually help that situation? Either of you. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, starting young helps is, first of all, as I said, it is more affordable. And the range of options that you have available, the range of coverages that you have available is much broader and wider, right? So, and the thing is, the later on you go, there might be, because of whatever conditions you might develop, there might be certain coverages which might not even be available to you, or they might be very expensive, or the amount of coverage that might be available to you would be more limited, right? So the younger you are, you can start off with the right level of coverage that you expect at an affordable premium, and then once you have that coverage, because it's a longer term commitment, right? You are already in, so your premium levels get balanced out over a much longer period of time, and I think that is something, that's the concept when we really talk about planning, you're really planning for the future. I think that's very important.
No, I understand. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, which is because you're starting young, you're starting when your premiums are at a low age, you get protected early. But over the course of kind of your working life or that income building life, those kind of low premiums average out the high premiums you might face later on. So it's advisable to start young. That makes sense. I mean, any other factors you think that you should think about when considering these kind of policies? We've just told them why it's important. We've told them what to do, roughly how much to get, and in what policy, and do it early. Like any other factors that people may not be aware need to look.
Maybe one more point to add. And it's important to get your coverage while you're still young and healthy. So there's a Malay saying, sediakan payung sebelum hujan. I think that's very important. You do not want to be in a situation where later on when you are not well, that's where you then want to take up coverage, because then it can be quite expensive for you. So it's the point that I want to make is make sure that you get it now while you're still young and healthy.
Okay. No, thanks for that. Alina, do you have any specific viewpoints on this kind of start early mentality? Where should they start and why?
Definitely. So I might not be able to explain it the way Rangam or Elmi is explaining it, but I, as an educator, think about behavior change. And behavior change is very difficult when you're older. You want these concepts to be part and parcel of financial management at a very young age. Even like put away lah the benefits ke, apa ke, premium ke, but the concept of wanting to protect you, the concept of wanting to protect risk is very important to start at a very young age. And that is why I think I highly encourage you that if you're still young and you're not protected, go out there and get yourself a Takaful insurance coverage.
Yep. Again, so for young people, I guess one thing I should add, Bank Negara are part of the FEN. FEN has organized all these webinars, and there are products out there that are kind of like starter products for young people who are not sure what to do, how much to get, and where to get it. It's called Perlindungan Tenang. Maybe I can get our panelists to explain a little bit about what it is, and is it offered do all insurance companies offer it? What is it, and why is it a good way to get on the ladder of insurance?
I think that's a very important point that you've raised, Han. The insurance industry, together with, in partnership together with Bank Negara, we have been really working very hard to make protection affordable to everyone in the country. So what you can actually do, Perlindungan Tenang is a very great example of very simple and affordable protection product where you can actually get coverage for 100 to 300, up to 10 to 30,000 coverage for a very affordable premium of around 30 odd ringgit, right? But you can also get, for example, simple death protection today for below 10 ringgit a month. You can get up to 1 million of coverage. So it's for less than 1 cup of Starbucks, you can actually get very high monthly coverage. If you're looking at medical insurance policies for 30 odd ringgit, 37 ringgit a month, you can actually get coverage up to 150,000. Right? So today, insurance is very accessible. It's really a matter of thinking about it. The products are there. Companies are trying in partnership with B&M and with other, within the association to make products affordable, simple, easy to purchase. You can also purchase the products online and also easy to claim. I think that is important. Sometimes that might be a barrier. But I really don't believe that should be any concern anymore. Because as an industry, we know for all of these products, when it comes down to paying claims, we actually pay 90% of the claims get paid out across the board.
So when you say 90%, you mean 90% of people claiming get the payout. So yeah. Claim rates are claim success rates are high in that sense. High. Okay. Thanks for that, Rangam. I think for me, Perlindungan Tenang is something very simple for people to understand. It's low entry cost. Yeah. For people who are not sure where to start, that's a good place to start. And all 16 of the members of the Life Insurance Association in Malaysia have some form of Perlindungan Tenang. How widely available is it?
So there are quite a few companies which offer Perlindungan Tenang products. Not all the 16, not all the companies, but quite a lot of them. Okay. But what we have also done is, together with Bank Negara has been a big champion of promoting basic protection products even online. Okay. So today, if you go directly online to any company, right, you should be able to find the right kind of protection product, whether that's a pure term product, whether it's a critical illness product or a medical product, which is very affordable online and directly with the companies.
All right. Okay. No, and Perlindungan Tenang is not just an insurance thing. There is also Takaful providers within that. Yes, and is it similarly priced, or how is it different? As in, how do I go navigating if, let's say, I want Perlindungan Tenang, but I want it from a Takaful operator?
Yeah. So the mechanics are the same, and it's very important for us to recognize that the youth of today have actually a wide, they can actually access information about Takaful or insurance coverage on the net, right? So on the web, there's so many that you can do to research what is the right product for them. And a good place to start, as we are talking, is about the Perlindungan Tenang. And for MTA, we also have member companies that participate in Perlindungan Tenang, and they provide coverage. And it's very easy. Go to the online portal of the various Takaful operators, and there are Takaful operators that are offering these coverages. And again, I would like to stress again that it is actually very, very affordable. For someone who's like 25 years old, you can actually get a coverage of 20,000 ringgit for as low as 4 ringgit a month. So 5 ringgit a month. So that's very, very affordable.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter what segment are you in kind of income segment household, like 4 ringgit a month to get protected for several tens of thousands of ringgit. I don't want to say the word it's better than nothing, but in fact it is better than nothing. So for me, if you're looking to start out, right, whether you're still in school or you're about to graduate, about to start work, or you are working and you hadn't thought about insurance before, and think about it, Perlindungan Tengah is probably the way to go. You can get it online, so for those digital savvy folks, you can go and pick it up. But for the people who, I guess one for you, Alina, which is we're moving on, who want who are not necessarily youth, right? They're maybe educators like yourself, they're parents, they know the importance of insurance, right? And they're struggling to communicate that to their children or their nieces or nephews or people younger than them. They're mentoring them. For those who are watching and thinking, okay, I've attended this webinar, it looks like it's for youth, but I have a youth, they're not attending this webinar. What can I do? How do I increase awareness about why it's important, promoting the uptake of insurance and Takaful among this generation?
I think it's very important that as we design the education element of financial management, insurance and Takaful, that we include aspects of experiential learning, where students or youth can understand what kind of scenarios will come in play, and Takaful and insurance will be of benefit to me. So one of the things that we do at ARUS when we design our programs is we ensure that youth truly understand it and embrace the concept. So one simple example was one of our youth engagement program where we work with B40 students in a PPR. And we simulated this entire scenario where they get fake money, they get to have a job, they get to rent houses, buy a car if they want to, and then unexpected events happen. And as they were playing the simulation, at the very beginning they enjoyed it, up until a certain point where they realized that money, if they don't manage it, is going to be gone. And when unexpected events happen, and they don't have Takaful or insurance coverage, they break down. Immediately we saw groups who were literally breaking down and groups who were cheering because they took up Takaful before that round happened. So being experiential, having students really experience this is very important, because after the program, when we ask them, if I were to give you this bunch of money, what are you going to do with it? They actually say, I'm going to start investing in Takaful. Compare that to before the camp started, Takaful was not even mentioned at all. And so it's very important to get them to understand that unexpected events is part of life, and you need to manage that risk.
Okay, so what you're saying is it's not just about sitting in a seminar or webinar and saying, okay, Takaful is important, this is why, this is where you're going to get it. It's also about imparting it into the daily experiences of children or youth, to make it impactful to them, because it's about promising something that might, it's about promising to pay for something but that might not happen. So you simulate it in their mind to say, look, it happened, now what, right? So we were talking earlier this morning about how that sounds like Monopoly, but actually with insurance. I like that very much. We're just about out of time for the formal part of this session, but before we get into the Slido questions, please keep them coming, by the way. Slide.those/YOLO or scan the QR code. I want to hear some, I want to hear some kind of last words from each of you. Basically a summary of today for the people who have not or have been watching and have not been really listening, about why Takaful / insurance is important and where should you go to get it. Some last words, I guess, from each of you. Rangam, go ahead.
Sure.
You first.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in planning, right? So when you're a student, you have aims and ambitions of, what universities you want to go to, you plan for your studies. When you want to get married, you do a lot of planning for your marriage and stuff like that. So I think when it comes down to our own financial matters, we also need planning. We cannot just let it happen by accident, right? There are all different parts of life that we need to plan for. And I think just the key part about planning is actually starting with those conversations, asking the right questions, trying to find out, speak to your family, speak to your friends, speak to people who you trust. There are enough resources that is available, and that really is the starting point to planning. Today, insurance, Takaful is very accessible. It's very affordable, and it's just a matter of putting that as part of your broader life plan to get you started. I think that's the key message that I would have. And to the message that I started off with, really, there is no future without planning. I think that's something that you need to have in your mind. That would be one message as a conclusion.
No, thank you.
Just summary in the interest of time. So I think to wrap it up, it's important to plan not only for good times but also tough times as well and bad times as well. So therefore, it's very important for all the youth to be able to plan not only in terms of wealth creation but also in terms of protection as well. And I cannot stress again the importance of doing it very early when you're still young and healthy.
Yeah. No, thanks, Elmi. And finally, Alina, any last words from you?
Yes, I think for youth out there, you have a role and responsibility, not just for yourself, but for the nation. Think about ways you can reach equality and through financial inclusion. Think about that and think about all the sharing about pelindungan tenang and all that. It's just not about you, but what can you do to build advocacy around financial inclusion?
Thanks. I guess one last word from me, which is I always see insurance as something where I trade up my time for money today by my job, right? And I'm trying to build my wealth, right? And as a young person previously, if something happened to me at that point, then I can no longer trade my time for that money. So I need to trade something else for that money. And the way I look at it is I'll trade this document, which is my insurance policy, for that money. And a lot of people don't realize this, which is insurance is actually, and you mentioned it earlier as well, right? Insurance is actually income replacement when you cannot make that money anymore. It's not just for emergencies, it's for that future, right? That future where you're supposed to work for 20 years, earn a bunch of money, hopefully, save a bunch of money, and you can no longer do that. And even if you can't save, you're supposed to earn money for essentials, your necessities, and you can't do that anymore, then what? So for me, that's how I see insurance and why it's important to supplement that kind of income generating capability of my time. I think it's probably worth now jumping into the questions. I can see lots of questions on the board already. So the formal part of the webinar is now moving on to the question part of the webinar. We've taken your questions over the last 45 minutes or so, and I'll be starting to pull them out and seeing who would like to answer them. Without much further ado, let's get right into it. Some of the questions are in Malay, so I hope we are able to answer in Malay as well. If not, the questions which are in English will answer in English. So the first question from the audience is in Malay. Ada tak insurans yang sesuai untuk kami Grab driver yang tidak terlalu mahal, income pun tak berapa stabil? So gig worker, Grab driver, bagaimana nak ada tak insurans yang sesuai untuk mereka? Encik Ami?
Yeah, so good question. So thank you for that. Jadi untuk pelindungan yang sesuai untuk seorang yang bekerja sebagai Grab driver, there are banyak option yang ada di market sekarang ni. And seperti yang telah kita bincangkan tadi, a good place to start would probably be the pelindungan tenang, because that's something yang amat berpatutan. So that could actually be a place for them yang untuk start. But as I said, banyak option di market, and I think kalau kita buat a bit more research, lebih banyak answer yang jawapan yang kita dapat lah.
Okay. Thanks for the question. Next question is Takaful only for privileged people? How about the poor who also want to have financial security via Takaful, especially during mishaps? Any alternative for them? So a Takaful question yet again from Mr. Ami.
Tak berapa faham, not really sure about the question in terms of is it for privilege?
Yeah.
So I think this is more about affordability.
Yeah, I think I think we should probably bust the myth here too, right? Which is Takaful isn't just for privileged people.
Correct.
Right.
I think the point that we want to, the message I'd like to send, that there are plans that meets the needs of everyone there, right? It doesn't matter whether you're in what income range that you have, there is a plan for everyone. So that's a myth that I think is important for us to break through. Yep. There is coverage that's available for everyone, for every Malaysian, right? They only have to make the decision to get that. Yeah.
No, I echo that because I mean both of you mentioned ranges of 4 ringgit, 10 ringgit, 20 ringgit a month, which it is a cost. I'm not saying it's free, it's super duper cheap, but by saying the words 4 ringgit a month, 30 ringgit a month, you can sort of tell that look, even if you are in a B40 segment, 4 ringgit a month, I won't say it's very cheap and very affordable, but it's something that you can foresee yourself paying because you probably pay that for various other things in your life too, right? It's not just for the rich and famous, you know, where you have thousands and thousands of ringgits every month to spend for Takaful insurance. So thanks for that. I'll push the next question from the audience to Alina probably, which is what kind of insurance should youths get first? Medical, life, accidental?
I don't know. I think I think for me, it has always been like a personal preference. I don't know whether this is something that everybody should follow, but I did start with life first. But I'm pretty sure the experts would know this better. What would you recommend youth?
As I said,
First, yeah. In which order, basically?
In which order? Basically, I would say generally depending upon what your personal situation is, what is it that you do, what is it that you want to protect against. But the key point I would say is when you take a look at your life needs, right, you have to start with protection. And protection includes protection against death, which is the life which Alina mentioned. Protection is also the medical part of it. Protection is also critical illness. If you have in your family issues or history with critical illness, that might be something that you need to consider about. Or depending upon your job, right, the kind of job that you're doing, you might need a personal accident insurance to start off with. So really you need to take a look at protection as a big umbrella and what would be your specific need. When I started off young, I started off with life, with term life, I think because it was the income replacement part which I've mentioned earlier. I think it was very important that I have that, and then generally over that you build it out, right? So that's kind of how I started off, but that's based on your situation. You need to take a look at it for yourself.
No, thanks for the question. No, thanks Ranga for the answer. Thanks for the question. We're moving on to the next one. I think what I'll pick up the question first, and then I'll throw it to all three panelists because I think we all have something to say here, which is what are the common misconceptions among youth with regard to insurance or Takaful? So I guess it's kind of a myth-buster question, and if you could all pick out a myth that you guys have heard in your industry and then bust it for our audience, and I'll go from the end here. Alina, you first.
I think I've heard so many from young people about Takaful insurance only for the rich, which we have we've answered that. Also, they think that Takaful companies are just there to take out their money. They'll never see it back again. They'll never see it back because it hasn't happened yet. And so these are the things that you need to understand. They have the concept of whoever agents that's coming to like sell me Takaful, it's another scam. It's another them taking money from me. So I think, which is not true. Yeah.
I'm very passionate about this subject, right? And the myth that I normally get is about rugi saya masuk Takaful sebab saya tak claim, right? So that I think coming back to the understanding about why protection is required. Now, it is there to ensure that when come rainy days and you need that protection is there. Okay, so it's important for us to set aside a small amount to be able to ensure that over the rainy days we are able to be okay. Yeah.
Okay. Myth busting?
Myth busting, yeah. I think we started off with a few of them already, right? The first one obviously is always, okay, life insurance is expensive, so it's only for a certain segment. I think that is not true. We've already addressed that. The second issue is people say, okay, I'm young, I'm out there to conquer the world. I don't need insurance, right? Insurance is only when I get older. It's for older people. It's not for me. I think that I think we have also addressed that we need to start early. The third myth, which I hear very often is, difficult to claim. You never get your money back, right? And I think that is again a myth, which we have said that over 90% of the claims actually get paid, right? So that's point number one. That's the part around whether I will ever get the money back. And the last myth which I want to address is, I think it's important. Very often people say, my employee benefits will cover. I don't need my own insurance. I'm employed, employee benefits will cover it. What happened? You don't have a job. In COVID-19, right now we've heard a lot of people losing their jobs. The moment you're out of a job, your employee benefits is also off, right? And then you're left without any cover. What do you do then?
Yep.
I think that's the last myth I wanted to address.
No, I love that. I'm going to summarize it because there's been a lot of good points there, which is some common misconceptions. Insurance companies are just there to take my money. They're taking it for a product and service, right? I confirm rugi jika tak claim, which the claim hasn't happened yet. So you've bought into a promise. I don't need it because either I don't need it because my employer already covers it, and it's a difficult to claim process. Now, if you follow the process, Ranga's mentioned more than 90% of people get the claim. Those are just some of the common misconceptions that are out there. Hopefully, we've cleared some of them up. And moving on to the next question. This one's in Malay from the audience. Untuk prospek yang kurang upaya seperti kudung sejak lahir, masih ada peluang untuk mencarum insurans atau takaful? I guess Elmi, this one's for you.
Boleh. Jadi dalam proses untuk kita memasuki pelan takaful ataupun membeli insurans, kita ada proses yang kita namakan underwriting ya. So semasa proses ini is where kita akan berdasarkan pada soalan-soalan yang ditanya dalam borang proposal ataupun permohonan untuk takaful atau insurans, kita akan underwrite dan juga kita akan assess keupayaan untuk kita memberi perlindungan kepada mereka yang memohon untuk perlindungan. So the short question is possible, tetapi kita perlu underwrite dulu.
Okay. So the answer ada peluang, tapi sebagai customer kena mohon dulu, memberi peluang untuk mereka underwrite you, right? So that's the answer. Okay. Next question. Insurance for protection, investment for retirement. With limited funds, which should you prioritize first? Okay, this is a spicy one. I think all of us should have a go at this one. Alina, which should we prioritize first?
I still think that you need to manage your risk first. If we're talking about priorities, but there are so many products that combines the both as well. So, yeah.
Okay, Elmi?
I would go with protection first, definitely, because I think it's important to protect yourself first before you then do your wealth accumulation. So,
Ranga?
I would agree. I would really start off with protection first, because I think you need to address your core risk needs, and you need to protect yourself. You need to protect your family first, and then comes the part around saving, accumulation, and doing it for retirement. And but the question is so important that you need to do it for retirement, because very often, again, one of the myths that I have is, okay, I put money aside at EPF, and I don't need to save for retirement. Oh, I think you need to save for retirement, because what we don't understand is once you retire, your EPF fund for majority of the people in Malaysia gets exhausted within 5 years, right? So you need to save for retirement, but the timing has to be right. You start with protection, but don't ignore to save for your retirement. It's very important.
Yeah, no, I've got thanks for that. I've got an answer for that too, which is based on the discussion today, which is what Alina also mentioned earlier, which is you can start saving for retirement today, but if you don't have protection and something bad happens, you fall back into that cycle of not having any money. So for me, it's do it in lockstep, right? So you're starting to build up wealth, you start to get protected. The more wealth and income you have, the more you protect. So you can do it in lockstep together. I would do together, to be honest, which is I want to save for retirement, and I want to protect both my income and that savings, right? If I don't do that, then my hard-earned retirement savings gets wiped out by a bad event. So that's how I look at it, which is do it in lockstep together. The next question is probably a very, very good one in terms of the situation today. I'm going to pull it out from the audience. I'm not afford to pay my insurance premium. I cannot afford to pay my insurance premium. Should I stop doing it? And I think we should, the two insurance guys should probably answer that one. Elmi, why did you go first and then Ranga next?
No, you shouldn't stop. There are options that you can do to ensure that you can still maintain, you can still have your coverage, right? And the options are, reviewing back in terms of whether or not is it possible for you to maybe reduce your cover slightly, right? Because that will reduce your premium, or maybe look at other ways to ensure that you can continue with your plan, because it's very important for you to have one.
Okay. No, thanks for that. I think, Rangam, like the question is probably quite timely in terms of probably the person might have lost their job or had reduced income. Should I just stop paying my premium? What should I do?
No, I think first of all, what you've got to remember is the moment you stop paying your premium, you lose your coverage and you lose your protection, right? And I don't think that is the right thing in this environment. Even as part of the COVID, the insurance industry has put up this, the premium deferment program. Speak to your insurance company to have mechanism to defer the premium if you're having financial challenges, right? The premium deferment program, also the companies give the no lapse guarantee, is available. It started off in April, it's available until the end of the year. At any point of time, I think you should go and speak to the company and talk it over. And the options, which I think Elmi already mentioned, first of all, you can avail of the premium deferment. I think as of today, in the insurance industry, over 1 million customers have actually availed of the premium deferment program, which we have, in terms of value, that's over 1 billion ringgit in value, where premiums have been deferred. But also, take a look at your coverage. Maybe if you can keep a protection on, but maybe you need to reduce a sum assured. Maybe you need to reduce the different types of coverages that you have in the program. Take a look at the premium. If the frequency of the premium you need to adjust, all of those, there are various different options that you can work together with your insurance company to really adjust your policy so that you can keep it active when you need it, and when you're in a better situation, then you can go back to the original cover that you had.
No, thanks, Rangam. That's something that I don't think a lot of people were aware of, right? Which is just like on the banking side, there was the targeted repayment assistance program. Something similar exists with the insurance industry. If you've got your income impacted, don't just stop paying. You will lose your coverage otherwise. Talk to your insurance company, get that assistance if you need it. Once you get that and you still struggle, there are all kinds of things you can do. Rangam and Elmi have explained. Change your coverage, adjust your time frame of payments. So many things you can do. The last thing you want to do is just stop paying, because that pretty much guarantees you will lose your coverage if your policy lapses, right? That's in short. Next question is probably for myself and Adina, but let's pick it up from the audience. Why so many online platforms, post office, and various cheap, simple insurance products to purchase for the public, but the response is still not good? Good question.
That is a great question.
Great question. I think it all boils down to the various things that we've been saying earlier, the last kind of 45 minutes or so, which is these things are there, right? They're there. They're available online, so a digitally savvy audience should be able to access them. But it's about two things, right? The first is awareness, which is many people just don't know that they're there. So hopefully webinars such as this one and any future initiatives around financial education should help. And the second, after awareness, is understanding, which is I may be aware of it because I've been told by somebody. I've heard all these experts on these digital platforms explain all about it. I'm aware of it, but I don't understand why it's important to me. I think those two are the key reasons, right? It's the mindset around, first, I'm not aware of it, and even if I was aware of it, I don't quite understand it. I think we might have time for one last question, which we'll pull up from the audience, and then we'll wrap up. Next question. How do I know which insurance best suited for me? Similar question to what we answered earlier, but maybe we can just hit the nail on this one, which is, how do I know which one suits me best?
I think one aspect over here in terms of what insurance suits you the best, I would say, is take a look at your own personal situation first, right? Are you a single individual person? Do you have a family? Do you have children? What are your life goals? How are your life goals changing? What is it what is the objective that you want to achieve, right? That will already guide you towards what should be the right product. What you have to remember is insurance is not a product you buy once and you forget about it, right? Just like your FD in a bank, you don't just buy it and then you forget about it, right? You always continue to look after your money. So from an insurance perspective, as your family situation changes, as your lifestyle situation changes, your needs changes, you need to keep updated with what would be the right kind of coverage for yourself. And I think that would be the way to really evaluate it and talk to people. You know, there are enough resources that are available of people who can advise you. You have members, you know, you have financial planners, you have agents, you have insurance companies. You can talk to people and get advice, take advice from different sources, and you'll make the right decision.
Okay, I've been told we have time for one last question, so one bonus question. And just for everyone here, if you didn't get your questions answered, don't stress out. We'll be taking them offline, well, online, offline of this webinar, but back online, and answer those questions on the various social media platforms where this is on, including Facebook. If you've got any more questions, just feel free to tweet us or any of the panelists here. You can find the Twitter accounts. We'll be happy to answer those questions, even if we don't get to yours, right? Last question before we close. How much should a youth allocate monthly for insurance? Who wants to take this one?
I can take it if
go for it. Go for it.
Because we do, and that's a great question, by the way, because it's called, how much insurance can you afford? It comes down to affordability of insurance, right? You have your monthly salary. You don't want to be spending all your monthly salary on insurance. You've got to be setting money aside for food, for your rent, and so you automatically always set aside a percentage of whatever you earn on a monthly basis for insurance. That can be anywhere between 10-15% up to a maximum of 30%. That's the rule of thumb that we say. We said, you shouldn't do more than that. Really, it's all about affordability and making sure that then the coverage that you have fits what your income level is and ensure that you're well within your income level.
And if I can make a point, just make sure that you buy a plan that you can afford.
Yeah.
And not something that exceeds what you could afford, because then you lapse your policy.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So look at don't spend all your salary on your insurance premiums, and buy what you can afford. Two great tips there. We just come up to the end of the question time. Thanks so much for our panelists for being here. Thanks so much for your insights and answering the questions from our audience. Just a reminder, if you didn't manage to get your question answered, don't worry too much about it, because we'll be doing it offline after this webinar. And I just want to thank again our panelists for showing up today. Allow me to do a quick summary of today, right, which is all about why is insurance important? How does it matter in your day-to-day life? Even if you're a youth, even if you're in the gig economy, it matters. What are the options available out there? How easy it is to access these products, these tools that can be used to help you in your retirement, get you out of poverty, protect you against all the bad things in life that happen, including accidents, illness, injury, death. That's why it's important. And I think given that today is the last webinar in the three-part series organized by the FEN, I think it's also worth talking about what we've been talking about so far the whole week, right? Which is on Monday we talked about debt management and having a solid debt profile, and why it's important to have your debt managed appropriately. In session 2 with Suraya, we talked about personal finance down to the individual. How do I save? How do I budget? How do I manage my money? How do I start an emergency savings fund? And today was all about protection of the stuff that we've been talking about before, which is you've worked hard, you made sure your debt is well managed, you've been able to save, you've been able to budget well, you've been able to set up an emergency fund well, you've been able to manage crises such as COVID-19, and today we talked about how you're going to protect all that money and all that kind of potential income that you have against any future crises. I think it's been a really, really exciting 3 sessions talking about all things money and all things management during this time. Just a quick reminder, if you missed any of our 3 sessions, including today's, you can just go on straight to the FEN website at www.fenetwork.my, where we'll be putting all this on. You can also catch the recordings of the last 3 webinars, including today's, on Ringgit Plus's Facebook account, where you can just check it out, and we'll be for sure to answer any future questions that you have on those platforms. But from us all here at today's webinar, thank you so much for joining us. Back to you, Lisa.
Thank you to our esteemed panelist and our moderator, Encik Han Liu, for the very engaging session today. I would also like to thank all of you who have taken the time to participate in this webinar. We hope that you have benefited from the tips and sharings by our experienced panelists throughout the webinar series. More importantly, it is our wish that you are able to put some of the insights gained into practice and to adopt prudent money management as a way of life. FEN's initiatives to improve financial literacy of Malaysians is a continuous and ongoing effort. We look forward to seeing you again in FEN's future activities and programs, which we are sure will be equally insightful and beneficial for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the session today. The recordings of all 3 sessions of the Financial Literacy Webinar Series will be made available at www.fenetwork.my. And lastly, just a gentle reminder again to fill up the feedback form at www.fenetwork.my/feedback for future improvements, or you can just scan the QR code on the screen. Thank you everyone and have a good day ahead.